Okay, I'm very honored to do this introduction today. I'll be introducing a fellow writer, Maya. She's indeed a fantastic talent. To read her work is to be informed of the world of itself, and this is because she pits defiance against the sociopolitical in her tales. Um, in doing so, I think Maya's works articulates a victorious humanity through her characters. These characters many a time experience double consciousness. In other cases, they experience the weight of second-class citizenship. But it doesn't matter though. Her characters remain defiant. They're walking middle fingers to bombs and bullets. Another aspect I really love about her work is how sublime it is. Her sentences are packed with emotion, sensory elements, and historic resonance. Whether she's talking about the birthplace of Jesus or apartheid Palestinians experience, a bitter and painful sweetness undergirds her work. And this adds to the reader's emotional bandwidth. Lastly, this is my favorite part about her work. It looks in the face of power and it says, no, you won't stop me. You won't stop my pen. I will speak, I will write, and I'll be defiant. Mice, come give them what they want, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Yase, for the wonderful introduction and to everyone for being here. I'm incredibly honored to be reading in front of everyone tonight. Before I start, I just wanted to preface by saying when I mentioned green ID or blue ID, this is what it looks like. This is what the ID looks like. This is my current wallet. This is the wallet I held before, just a size comparison. You'll get it in a bit. This is, you don't have to look up every time. Why Spain? The embassy employee asks from behind the bulletproof or something-proof glass. I glare at my reflection, made cloudy by fingerprints. I refocus my eyes into his forehead. He doesn't look up. His voice reaches me through a built-in speaker so we can communicate, despite the unmistakable divide. The Spanish are known to be more lenient, grant visas easily, I want to say. Instead, I say, oh, I've always wanted to visit. My friends and I are planning a vacation to Barcelona, Madrid, the Basque country. I'm interrupted by how fast he looks at me, and I immediately know I fucked up. Different parts of Spain, I highlight Spain. Do you have all of your documents, he questions, studying me. Yes, I answer. I'd spent a month scraping for a letter from my employer, bank statements showing I can afford a trip to Europe, and enough family, friends, and connections at home to prove I wasn't going to overstay my welcome in the EU. I place the bulky stack of A4 papers into the tray, and he pulls it in his direction, filling silence with the clang of stainless steel. Photo, he asks, licking his index and flipping through the papers. He uses his other hand to push the tray back toward me. I place 2 headshots down, white background, 35 by 45 millimeters. He frowns, looking down at the photos, my face, and then down again. Was this taken in the last 3 months, he asks. Yes, just last week, I confirm. Your face, it looks puffy in the photo. It was a day or 2 before my period. I step closer to the mic, using my lower register. My body retains water when I PMS, and I bloat. He looks at me, then shifts his eyes to the ceiling, the wall behind me, and back at the papers. His lips disappear into his mouth. It's not a smile, only a pinch, as if he'd bit both lips into his teeth. A question like his requires an answer like mine. What do you do, and how much do you make per month? He continues. Look at my bank statements and you'll know, I itch to say, but I swallow my breath once more and tell him the amount. I'm a freelance blog writer. I work remotely for a lifestyle magazine. He staples the papers together, nodding, continuing to avoid eye contact. We're going to run biometrics now. Place your right hand on the machine. It's not picking up on your fingerprints. Try wiping your hands. I do as instructed. Perfect. Left hand, both thumbs. Good. Got them. He then places my documents in a brown envelope with my passport and writes my name and phone number on it. Here's your receipt for 130 euros. You'll hear back from us within 21 business days. I had my Schengen visa printed on my travel document, i.e. passport, my green ID, and a printout of my military travel permit to travel out of Ben Gurion Airport. This is my first time flying through Tel Aviv, and there seems to be a copious amount of preparation work involved. Normally, as a Green ID holder born in the West Bank into this existence, this classification, I would have to cross the land border to Jordan, being the only place I'm allowed to fly from. Recently, Green ID holders who are not considered a threat are granted security clearance to travel out of Tel Aviv. 1 hour taxi ride to the coast versus buses 3 borders into Jordan and potentially night in Amman. Since the borders are not open 24/7, I wanted to try my luck. My security clearance takes about 2 weeks to go through, and then a few days to get my permit. My record is clean. I'm not a threat to either state's existence, but I'll beat myself up over that later. To help me navigate this uncharted territory, Lena, my good friend, sent me a screenshot of a few tips she wrote in her notes app. I met Lena at a social media seminar 5 years ago. She writes content for a local marketing agency. Lena, a seasoned Jerusalemite, is allowed to fly out of Tel Aviv. This time, though, she has to cross the river for a funeral in Amman, where she'll be flying from. Also her first time. Shtachim flying from the airport and blue ID'd friend crossing the bridge. It's like we want to have a horrible start to our trip. Lena says I need to stop calling myself that. Shtachim. It's my reclamation of the term, I respond. She's probably right, though. I don't know if I can reclaim a word still used to oppress me and my people. Lena's guide to surviving Tel Aviv for smooth travel, or as smooth as apartheid can get. Knowing them, they'll give you a level 6 security tag once you check your bag in. Plaster a red label onto your passport with a star next to the barcode. High security threat. This is how you make your experience slightly easier. Step 1, wear a cute outfit. I suggest sweats or leggings and a top with a light sweater. No denim, no buttons or zippers. Don't wear your beige joggers either, the ones with silver accents on the adjustable string. No metal. Speaking of, don't wear a wired bra. Wear either a sports bra or nothing. Metal will be at least 30 additional minutes. Step 2, don't carry books. They don't like a smart Palestinian. If you do, maybe pick up a romance beach read. No Ghassan Kanafani, no Isabella Hamad. No indigenous anthologies. Step 3, no liquids in your carry-on. Pack them all in your checked luggage. Not even hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer cost me 10 minutes last time, and I ended up having to throw it away. The pandemic's over. Step 4, no electronics, no keys. Ms., are you carrying anything that could be mistaken for a weapon? Speaking of, don't wear your Palestine map necklace, too sharp at the bottom, the tip of the southern border. May also be mistaken for a weapon, and will 100% piss off whichever officer is there. Why are you wearing a map of a land that's not yours? Step 5, trim your nails. They'll ask you to take off your phone case, your clear laptop case, any jewelry, etc. Make sure you don't break one. You always have the cutest sets. Step 6, poker face. Don't smile, don't be nice, but don't be a jerk despite how much you feel like it. Attitude will be an additional 45 minutes. May even cause you to miss your flight. Step 7, tighten your screws, as Mama would say, and slip into your thickest skin. This isn't a container checkpoint. It isn't Colombia. They have private companies and the military running security controls in there. If you're lucky, you'll get the soldiers we're used to. Corporate security, on the other hand, I don't know if I can prepare you for that. But mentally prepare yourself for the conversation. I go off script. I want to practice mindfulness, be in the moment. The moment people pass by this special security control, staring down at me. Some smirking, some shaking their heads. The moment a couple pushes their baby stroller a little faster once they see an Arab at the airport. I look up to the ceiling and squint, LED lights almost as invasive as this entire process. I watch the officers move with unnatural lightness, doing the job they were hired to do, humiliate. They may or may not strip search me, but my body feels naked, violated, abused. Time moves quickly here, or slowly, I don't know. Too much to process, yet dehumanization that lingers. 2 hours in, thick skin, I chose the wrong moment to be mindful, on focus. Step 8, practice your answers to the following, even if the questions don't make sense. What were you doing here in the country? Where were you staying? Is that where your parents live? Did you travel anywhere else? So you stayed in your house the entire time? Where are you going next? Why Spain? Are you going anywhere else? How did you get your visa? Who drove you here? Did you receive any gifts in the last few weeks? Did anyone help you pack your bags? Are you carrying any seeds, herbs, tobacco products? You can't take cigarettes. It's okay, we'll throw them out for you. I'll be right back. There, going off script. Unfortunately, your backpack flagged our security system. It's going to have to go into the belly of the plane. Belly, check in. We can't say, but it did raise a red flag. No, you can't take anything. No phone, no books. You can carry the contents of your wallet, but not the wallet itself. Cash, ID, and card only. No, you can't carry this. There's a pharmacy inside. You have time. Fine, take 2 pills only. Put them in your pocket. Why would you need your AirPods if you don't have your phone? Here's a bag for your money and card. Step 9, take the bag that says Bon Voyage. Shove your stuff into it. Step 10, wonder what it was that triggered the security system when you followed the guide. Did you miss the step on how not to be a third-class citizen? Step 11, text your family and Nina and update them before you turn your phone off. Stop your fingers from shaking. Calm down and press the power button and the volume button. There you go. Ask for a pen. Have them refuse your request. Memorize Nina's number just in case. Race to passport control. Explain that your gate closes in 5 minutes. It's not your fault. You've been here since 12 and it's almost 4:30. Skip the line. Step 13, run. Sprint. The gate closes in 4 minutes. Run. Step 14, make it seconds before the gate closes. Step 15, ask a flight attendant for a glass of wine. Down it with 2 sleeping pills. Pass out and feel your body lose feeling. On the other side of the Dead Sea, Lena follows my guide on crossing the land border into Jordan. She flies that same evening. Guide to reverse segregation across the river in 13 simple steps. Leave early. You want to be the first on the bus to leave when the border opens at 8 a.m. Take bus 118 to the border. At the first stop, check in your bags. Buy passenger bus tickets and luggage tickets and pay for exit tax. Ask for a tag for your bag, otherwise it gets left behind. Depending on traffic, wait between 15 minutes to a few hours. Remember when my family went to Jordan for Eid and spent 8 hours on a stationary bus? While you wait, pay the I'm leaving the country tax. I wish someone could tell Jesus that his baptism site is now a triple border checkpoint, that people pay an exit tax to cross over the streamlet that's left. Smile at the woman with the wispy bangs at the passport control. Do not get agitated, even when 14 flies land on you at the same time. Jericho flies are built different. Get the orange piece of paper from the Palestinians and sit down on one of the sticky seats. Humidity or a toddler spilled juice box, you'll never know. Make sure you still have your passports, tax receipt, bus tickets, and luggage tickets. Hop on bus number 1. This will get you to the Israeli border. This is a short bus ride, 5 to 10 minutes. Find the mountain of luggage. Once you arrive, you wouldn't be able to miss the backdrop to the Jordan Valley Hills. Dig between suitcases, canvas bags, tanks of olive oil, random furniture pieces, strollers. Admire the infrastructure while you're at it. You'll find it eventually. Your bag, not infrastructure to admire. Load the bag into the X-ray machine near the entrance of the building. Make sure you tag it, otherwise, again, it will get left behind. Go through security control, which will lead you to passport control. It's not as intense as the airport, I assume, but you'll likely be taken aside for questioning. Why is a blue ID, non-permanent citizen of Jerusalem crossing the West Bank border? Explain. I expect 20 to 40 minutes here. Once on the second bus, ignore the tobacco business khaldos. I know, I mean, but they'll get you. When are you coming back? Will you carry cigarettes for me? May God bless you. May God help you get married. They'll give you a carton for every 3 you carry, but it's not worth it, trust me. You may want to take a nap here. This one's at least a 20-minute ride, or enjoy the scenic landscape of the desert. Final border and security control. When lining up at the Jordanian side, women as old as your teta may push you around. Give them grace. Stay collected. They're older than the state that's oppressing them. Let them have it. They're tired of this shit. You may get called into the interrogation window. Explain why you're using a laissez-passer and your temporary Jordanian passport. Explain 67 to them. Get your passport stamp, pay the Jordan entry tax. Oh wait, you're a temporary citizen of Jordan. You don't pay that. Go to the back corner of the building, past the duty-free, find your bag on one of the shelves. Scan your bag. It may be chalked with an X on it. Pay the Jordanian officer half a dinar on your way out. As luggage tax? I don't know. Hide the chalk mark with your hand as you pay, or they'll search your bag. Leave the building. Congrats, you're across the river. God bless the king. More flies here. You should know the rest from this point onwards, the adventure to find a taxi timeline. I'll see you at the arrivals gate in Madrid. We take the metro from the airport to our hotel in Sol in Madrid. It's almost midnight and Lina and I are run down. Lina notices a zit had formed on my cheek. Don't worry, we'll get you a topical cream tomorrow, she comforts me. We don't talk about what we went through. We don't need to. The check-in person at our hotel is American, I assume from the accent. Good evening, you two. Long trip, she says softly. Yeah, long trip. All right, let's get you both checked in, she stresses her hand. Awesome, you're booked for a room for two. Can I have both of your passports, please? Lina hands her her laissez-passer and her temporary Jordanian passport, and I place my Palestinian passport on the desk. I hesitate, not sure if she needs my permit. She doesn't, I remind myself. Ooh, let's see, what do we have here? She fumbles with the 3 documents, clumsily dropping one on the floor. Oh, sorry about that, she titters. All right, you're all set. She hands us our keys. Thank you, I mumble, and we both walk toward our room. I think it's really cool, I hear her almost squeak. That you're traveling together, I mean. I'm glad it's not like what we see on the news, the war. It's not a war, I start. Lina squeezes my hand. Yeah, Lina nods. It's nothing like what you see on the news. She says she wants to visit the area soon. Trade her Trader Joe's chocolate hummus for authentic one. Lina smiles at her. I grit my teeth. Yalla, let's wash the day off our bodies and get ourselves into bed. Lina pulls on my hand, slowly releasing her tense grip into a soft clasp. We fall asleep to the loud rattle of glass bottles. Our bedroom overlooks the back alley of the San Miguel market. I peek outside the window to the warm lit streets and see 3 workers empty boxes of wine bottles into the dumpster. We're here, Lina whispers. I close my eyes and feel my body lose feeling. Post-traumatic stress syndrome shows up for people who've experienced trauma. They often experience it when they've found safety. They regulate. A soldier coming home, survivors of abuse, survivors of natural disasters, just a few examples to name. For someone whose safety is outside their home, for someone enduring ongoing trauma, PTSD can show up differently. Mine shows up when I learn that spontaneity exists, that I can plan to drive to another city the day of, that it doesn't have to be an ordeal. I don't need my green ID and Lina doesn't need her blue ID and we don't need to go on 2 separate roads to get to the same city. We can get in the same car. The wall doesn't separate us here and we're not alien beings to one another. Our hearts don't have to thump when we cross from one city to the other, or even one country to the other. We go on a trip to Bayonne, crossing the French border. Wait, is that it? Lina asks me, eyes wide, zooming into Apple Maps on her phone. I guess that's it, I laugh, seeing our bus was on the other side of the map line. Put your documents away, stop acting like a tourist. Act like you're from here, I joke. Lina looks at my hands, my fingernails white from clenching my travel document and military permit. You first. We burst out laughing, turning a few heads towards us. It shows up when I realize that I could hear the sound of an airplane shake the sky above me without fearing for my life. That not every aircraft is an F-16 that carries the very objects that changed the sounds of my childhood. I stare into the Bilbao sky above the Atlantic as planes peek in and out of its clouds. You don't have to look up every time, you know, Lina nudges me with her shoulder. I find a new meaning in security. Security that does not require X-ray machines and being patted down at the entrance of malls to be felt, or arming an entire population to the teeth, or building walls in a land that refuses to be divided, a land that exists so I can breathe. At the leather market in Barcelona, Lina and I look for new wallets. We use my green and her blue as instruments to narrow down our search. Do the worn-out ID sleeves fit into the parameters of orange Spanish leather? We don't find wallets that fit. I feel freedom suffocate, like a cement wall on my chest. I feel my body deny myself from it, not knowing what to do with it. I feel an almost solace once the plane lands back into Tel Aviv, Lena by my side this time. I feel comfort in being stopped at the checkpoint into Jerusalem on the way to Ramallah. Comfort in the validation that I didn't do anything wrong. I feel a relief when the soldier nods go to the taxi driver, knowing I'm in the clear, not feeling like I'm on the run from one country to the other. I see the cement wall slide off my chest and stand upright against my eye view, wrapped in the rust of barbed wire, blocking the horizon. I feel Lena and I return to ourselves, to what we've learned to reject. I learned that my body can feel, and I continue to let it lose feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. That was wonderful, incredibly important. Hi, my name is Michael, and I have the pleasure to introduce Mary Simmons tonight. I can open the piece of paper. Mary is a first-year poet from Cleveland, Ohio, and would describe her poetry as, quote, gay yearning, end quote. In fact, I'm contractually obligated to say gay yearning at least 3 times in the intro. Just kidding. Mary's poems are concerned with the dead that we take with us and the dead that suddenly make us aware of them. You'll find lyricism in poems about ghosts, dream worlds, the poet Ovid, the body, and even the Mothman. Mary's hard work is evident in the poems she produces. Mary's work appears in journals such as Exist Otherwise, Anti-Heroin Chic, The Shore, The Santa Clara Review, and What Art. Please welcome Mary Simmons.
I'm sure, let me handle this. Okay. First, thank you, Michael, for that wonderful introduction. And oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to hearing your work for so long, and you've blown my mind. It's going to be hard to follow that up. But thank you all for being here tonight. A special thank you to my friends and family, both here in person and online. I feel like we build writing up to be a very isolated thing, but it really does take a village, and I'm very grateful to have my village here supporting me tonight. So without further ado, I feel like I'm too short for this. Without further ado, I will start my timer and let's just get right into it. I think I flirt sometimes with Lot's wife. We salt our roads with women who could not let go. A cautionary tale for those who want too much, who wish to pluck stars and fill their aprons with ripe plums. If I turned back, how could I ever settle for forgiveness and a stoked fire? Under my heels, I crunch Lot's wife and wonder what it is to fall asleep quickly, to stare into a wine-dark sea and wish to fill your lungs with it, to kiss the veins of a maple leaf and sweep the future off your porch. I see her sometimes in the back pew of the chapel with the domed ceilings, echoing voices like steepled canyons. She lets down her apron to reveal mice and November and a bushel of peaches, and she offers me her wares for the low price of looking over my shoulder with a resounding yes. I am reminded when I set my table by the salt shakers of white and pink and red, salt harvested from the crevices of language, that wanting does not reduce us, but makes us too many. Grains I devour in a bite. I am looking for marrow in these woods. Tell me, Is it worth all this searching? How quickly a downed tree no longer seems to have ever been alive. How softly the bullfrogs mourn in spaces away from all our hands. Leaves do not drown, but dry, floating in funeral marches across the pond's surface. We do not bury our dead, but carry them through the meadow, bearing all these ghosts on our backs, walking through aster and wheat, fading into October amber. We walk and we do not look back. Swallowed in pond, we do not recognize ourselves. Do you remember the blackbirds settling in your stomach? How they hollowed out the parts of you left to September? Do you remember bridges over rivers the dirt reclaimed? We name the trees after great-grandfathers and call ourselves poets. You are rotting, and you will not stop, even when I ask politely. Ceremony. We count headstones like this: hanky, hanky, brown. Children chant games and tear through the woods at dusk, circling up, taking turns poking a dead bird with a stick, weightless ceremony. And at bedtime, they will stuff their pillows with prayers, uprooted lilies, and September. Do we still forget that stars hover in perpetual death? Through the dawn, each step stirs a murmuration of starlings, a swarm of black against pink sky, against the surface of the lake. Each beat of each wing. In all things, I wait for you. I tuck the ghosts in at night. I tuck the ghosts in at night, and they never bless me, just weave lilacs into my hair and cobwebs across the furnace. They creak with the weight of this house, and I kiss them on their foreheads, offer handfuls of snow instead of a bedtime story, and name them after birds that do not live in this region. When I throw open the windows, night pours into me. I have forgotten what it means to be alone, to sleep without death grazing my palm, naming me nightly. The sheep I count are also lesbians. The sheep I count are also lesbians, and once they've leapt, they fall in love and run away in 2s and 3s and 4s, and I am still awake. Night rays out from my fingertips, passing headlights, muffled colors. The fake plant on my dresser breathes shadows on shadows. I never learned to keep a thing alive, and to know someone is to wake while they dream. I am falling in love with the idea of falling in love, which catches in my eyelashes and tangles in my hair and crawls under my pillow and speaks to me only in rain. Most nights, my ears dull to sounds outside of my heart. I close my eyes and open one at a time. This is how I grow accustomed to the dark. Each blessing shifting in turn, even darkness varied in darkness. I am longing for a dream I can step into, can fold into some resemblance of me. I am longing for those rooms filled only with breath, those great pauses. I am longing for someone to long for me, for someone to reach across the sheets and touch my arm so lightly. I would hardly remember her touch when we wake. Exile. I keep Ovid in a glass jar in my pocket, and he presses his face to the glass and tells me I should go home. I have never been cold, unless you count nights watching ducks eat duck meat in the dark. Dead moths abandon fragility, defy dust with too many eyes pointed north, and the stars drown their names in frozen lakes across Ohio, something like falling in love. I have never been anything other than temporary. Ovid judges me for writing with my left hand when I am not left-handed. Ovid circles job advertisements and taps against the glass, and I was never any good at reading lips. I open the lid and sprinkle milkweed seeds into his hair. I know he is dying, which is why I don't apply for any of the jobs he circled or sleep anymore. Dead women tap the undersides of my floorboards. Dead women flutter eyelashes against my palms in sleep. Cicadas. Ovid chews up my cicadas, stamps them under a heel, shakes grief from his hair, and accuses me of softness. I shake the jar 3 times and know more bones than I was born with. Dead women weave blankets from my dead skin. All this blood across teeth, all this ink winding into liver, Ovid smiling, because neither of us ever learned how to be alone. My older sibling might be the Mothman. My older sibling might be the Mothman, but don't tell them, or it will go to their head. They speak of their summer in Alaska like one hungry for the mountains, hungry for all that air. Their stories dissipate into fog, into details blurred with snow and smoke and salt air on the tongue. They speak of ravens, of feathered things, with the reverence of one winged and knowing. Those flying things invented language, and we, forgetting to thank them, devolved into these words, melted their voices into syllables that no longer sound like drowning, no longer flit through the pines. In darkness, we are fledgling things. We are blind. My sibling, green-eyed and taller than me, can see even themselves in shadow, can shore from the void silhouettes darker still, shapes of a world they may have built from Lego as a child. They are most themselves when they wander. They leave shallow prints in snow as they walk the winter wood, a path that ends somewhere at the foot of a mountain. While you were dead. While you were dead, the body remembered the body and other bodies, where damp soil electrifies skin, bone kissing bone, except band-aids of muscle, and a heartbeat is a countdown clock. Is champagne passed to your lips from hers? Is size 8.5 heels in nude? is a wired motel room, is the dirt driveway of an aunt who doesn't know your name, is 7 Augusts in the dark, is duck fat burning in the pan, the body remembering breath as your name in her voice and her skin as the only soft thing the fog could still hold, joints devouring lily seeds, joints sprouting lily of the valley, and a heartbeat is sand dunes, is wet wood, is a field fire on the horizon of I-80, is fickle, is the last good thing about every home you've ever loved in. Hedge maze. The brambles are whispering about you. The thorns are begging your secrets in blood. Exposed roots tangling want from your ankles. We did not enter this maze together. Let me retrace my steps. Let me fall through every dead end. Let me draw circles in the dirt and summon you back to me. Somehow we always circle back to what I fear. Somehow the walls have begun breathing again, twisting themselves into something holdable, a broken-winged bird pressed against the breast, nursed and loved and released in strange sorrow. You have known strange sorrow, have known the sea by her thousand thousands, have listened for rain within yourself, below you, surrounding everything but us. I could build a life in every dead end, could tame these walls into warmth. I could find you if you knew what it was you were looking for. Reach out a hand, anchor yourself, and still these paths will shift. Still your feet will fail you, the night will fail you. We will keep drowning in all this roundness. Ophelia. I do not fill my bath with flowers to be her, but because I want her. Some elastic part of me believes I could save her from drowning in blank verse. Sink into murky waters, and I know I am dying, drowning daily in this still pool and filling my lungs with promises. Choking lilies in scalding water, petal from petal, the mirror fogs, shallow with nothing. And I am too young to understand grief as anything but longing. I do not want her beautiful, her serene float across death, her oil paint acceptance. I want her flood gasp, her bloated voice drunk on all she's lost. Want her blue lips, her fingers white and frozen, her ribs flush against skin, skin flush against fabric. Want her to sink and spoil and live again. Furious and shaking, not fearful, but feared. Doom bringer, raining violets from her hair, peeling violets from her eyes, shedding remembrance in petals and smoke. I lean over my knees and wonder how much bathwater I could swallow and still be a body. This last one is kind of long. It is a creation myth and it's told in parts. Clay Mother. 1. When a goddess loved her, when a goddess knew her name, knew the curve of her wrist and her collarbone and her nose, knew the breath that left her lips by its kissed syllables, she cried oak trees, chrysanthemums, small, flat stones, pears, and the bees inside them. When a goddess taught her how to fish, she took up her hands, and together they reached into a stream. Together they tugged salmon onto the banks, and the goddess pressed memories into the nape of her neck, memories of what it meant to be fish, to be gilled, to writhe on the banks, to die and be devoured. Memories of scales not unlike petals, of eyes not unlike illumination, and water enough to never thirst. When a goddess taught her creation, she took up clay, took up breath, took up charcoal, and began to sketch worlds, some like the one her goddess gave her, some in the image of herself. She took up memory. She took up drawing water from every unnamed flowing. She took up the naming of flightless things. When her goddess departed, she drew herself in dirt, selected names from the ashes of every fire she made and abandoned, chose meaning from the memory of her goddess, waited for many days without knowing it was her own heart beating inside her and could never be another. 2. In the first winter, she prayed with skyward palms. Out of wet clay, she martyred her loneliness. She smoothed figures with her palms, with the flat of her wrist, piped out the extra water until only a bakeable body remained. Sculpting is born from somewhere in the chest. Sculpting is atonement. She flattened a clay mound, started over. She pressed space for eyes with her thumbs, gave noses and not gills, grayed her fingers, gathering clay from the stream. She prayed with soundless lips. She prayed for something like faith, something foldable and effortlessly small, something to hunger. She shaped hands the way her goddess had traced the lines on her palm, had rubbed a thumb back and forth over her wrist. In every shadow against the kiln, she could almost trace the silhouette of her goddess, could almost feel that slight pressure against her lips. She kissed each of her clay women, and they lived, knowing only of her and each other, knowing nothing of winter. 3. Her clay people grew into daughters, daughters. Her daughters and their lovers, women drawn from salt, women created from bone and from wing, planted irises. And they burrowed homes into mountains thick with fog, learned the fish in every stream, and named the rocks for goddesses that never knew them. They learned clay and breath and how to untangle memory, how to knead it and press it into each other's palms and fill their stomachs with knowing and what it is to be known. In the last winter, she prayed to be named, to be seen and collected and etched into some lasting place. She let her gardens sprawl unplanned, let her clay daughters shore up that which she had planted for a goddess. She let a universe populate itself with growing, Let the snow find purchase on something made by hands. On the shortest day of the year, she went fishing for memory, molded it against wet clay, formed figure after faceless figure of a goddess who knew her longing and had done nothing to weed it. She cried, and for all of this, only iris petals. 4. Let me begin again. Let me gather all this mud and mold my own sagging people. Let me breathe into them and bless them living things. Bless them winged. Bless them with all this breathing and let them name themselves, free from my hands. Let me peel the iris petals from my skin, ground them into powder, a sweetness to feed us through the winter. Let me flood this hollowness with the voices of mud women. Let me reinvent clay, reinvent this baking. Let me kiss them all to life, a kiss on each eyelid. Let me be fish in the memory of a goddess's love. Thank you. That's it, bye.
I have a question. Can I get called on? I just started speaking.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering about like some of your poems, Mary, have to do with like specific characters, like mythic characters or Shakespearean characters. Like, how do you decide on who you're going to be like responding to or communicating with in your poetry?
Yeah, that's an awesome question with a kind of boring answer. It's whoever is living in my brain at the moment. I've kind of always been that way. I feel like my brain is kind of built of like the myths and legends and fiction that I have grown up on and kind of like fed myself with. Like storytelling is very much ingrained in my brain, and different characters just live there, and they will just kind of tap on my skull, and then they come into a poem. Ovid was kind of a surprising one. He's not a usual character up there. It's usually Lot's wife, Ophelia, and Eurydice. They live up there. They're the most common ones. But Ovid apparently was chilling out and started tapping the glass. So.
All right, Mary, for you.
I'm so sorry. We will go, honey.
And you can answer this too if you feel like it.
Okay.
Fuck, marry, kill.
Bonnie, how could you?
Medea, Lady Macbeth, and dang it, the third one just fell out of my brain. Oh.
I'm abstaining either way. I'm not answering that question. You're gonna make me answer that on the spot? No, I'm not answering that.
Fair enough.
Abstaining, too
Thank
difficult of a choice.
Thank you, Mary.
You're very welcome. Do you want to ask something that's not?
Yeah, I have a question for you. So for the story that you wrote specifically, what came first? The idea to kind of write a story that contained an instructional list, or the idea for like the plot?
Yeah, the idea for the story, it started out as kind of something like reactions from a Palestinian to experiences abroad, kind of like passing from one place to another without having to like stop at a checkpoint and feeling like you're doing something wrong. The thing with the wallet happened in real life. My sister and I were trying to find wallets at a leather shop, couldn't find a wallet to fit. So things that like are driven from real experience, but also things that you feel when you're abroad. So that's how it started out, and that's how I wanted it to be laid out.
And then the instructions kind of took along like a lot of page space, and it ended up being more on the journey, and then a little bit after. So it shifted as the story came about, I guess. Yes.
Myers, I love your nuanced but very real American voice that you shifted into, both in how you read it and how you wrote it. I was wondering how often you play with that and whether that's kind of going on in the back of your head constantly, being surrounded by us. And yeah, just how often you play with that, on the range.
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that because I was talking about that with Fiance yesterday. I was saying I don't know which accent of mine was going to appear today because the way I read is not the way I speak. It's, I think, like I've been kind of trained to speak a certain way when I'm in front of people or at conferences or something, and so that accent is a little forced. It's not the way I speak. My accent's very heavy. It's much heavier, and I code switch a lot depending on who I'm with, and it's just out of habit, I think.
Mary, can I ask you, was there a particular work by Ovid that you had in mind? Because I mean, the Metamorphoses, and then of course the Code in Exile in Asia Minor for the last 12 years of his life. Was there something specific about Ovid that you were, because the Metamorphoses has a lot of stories in it.
Yeah, so, well, and this might make more sense with the character response thing. I was mostly thinking of Anne Carson's wonderful short talk on Ovid is what, yeah, that's what I think, and that's why kind of like the modern setting Ovid, I think, came in more so than any of his actual work, which I think is interesting that, yeah, it's me more being fascinated with him just as a person in exile than as a writer, which makes sense as a poet, I guess. It's saying something there, but yeah, it came more so from Anne Carson's short talks than Ovid himself, which makes sense for me.
Oh, I got a question for Mayes. I was wondering, so I felt like there was a bureaucratic mindset that was almost like a coldness, like in concert with the humanity that these characters were having to. There's an internalization of the humanity, right? And yet there is a coldness with which they have to deal with this bureaucratic, like, machinery, I guess. Were you going for like I guess a replication and in a way of the reader to be able to go through that like machinery with the characters?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I wasn't going for that in specific. It is just something that you kind of like have to learn to do, and I was trying to convey that using those lists. Like, this is how you do it, and this is how you do it right, and this is how you survive this experience. And it's just something that's learned and something that's communicated between people, whether they're friends or family. So it's an understanding of the process or bureaucratic process, and then existence, state of existence, and kind of it being, again, communicated between different characters.